Protecting the population and minimizing civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency. There are discoveries so brain-twisting that they shatter your entire view of reality. Music, what you're about to see, is a lineup of the strangest sights and most mysterious moments ever revealed to human eyes. They'll shock you, amaze you, and make you question your own sense of what's real. Stick around because once you've seen this, you'll realize the world is far more bizarre than it first appears. Number 20. Door to Hell. In the middle of Turkmenistan's Karakum Desert, there's a pit that never stops burning. Locals call it the Door to Hell. It's right outside the tiny village of Darvaza, about 160 miles north of the capital Ashgabat. This thing is huge, about 200 to 230 feet across and nearly 100 feet deep. Nobody really knows the full story of how it began. Most people say it was back in 1971 when Soviet drillers struck a gas pocket, the ground gave way, and they torched it to stop methane from spreading. Even Turkmenistan's own records admit the details are thin. In 2013, explorer George Karunis actually climbed down into the pit wearing a heat suit. He collected samples and proved that tough little microbes were living in those crazy hot conditions. Over the years, Turkmen leaders have tried to shut it down. In 2010, the president called for a solution, and again in January 2022, he ordered plans to deal with it. By 2025, it finally started changing. New gas wells drilled around the crater began capturing fuel, and the once raging fire shrank into just small flickers. People who visit today often see a dark bowl with only a few flames here and there. Satellites confirm it, too. Fewer fire detections and methane plumes measuring about 1.8 to 3.2 metric tons per hour. That's tiny compared to Turkmenistan's massive gas leaks elsewhere. Number 19. Inside the mouth of a turtle. Turtles look calm and harmless until you peek inside their mouths. That's where the nightmare begins. Instead of teeth, sea turtles have throats lined with rows of backward-pointing spikes called esophageal papillae. These run from the back of the mouth all the way down to the stomach. They're made of keratin, the same stuff as your fingernails, but in a turtle it looks like a living meat grinder. What's the point of this terrifying setup? 3 things. First, it locks down slippery prey like jellyfish so they can't wriggle away. Second, it pushes out sea water before swallowing. And third, it protects the throat from stinging jellyfish tentacles. Leatherbacks, the jellyfish masters, take this design to the extreme with spikes that look like endless blades. Here's a common myth. Those spikes don't filter salt. Turtles handle that with special glands near their eyes, which is why they look like they're crying on land. Now get this. Jellyfish are basically bags of water, so leatherbacks need to eat a lot just to survive. Those spikes turn a slimy blob into fuel by moving it down like a conveyor belt. And to chase enough food, they dive insanely deep. The record is almost 4,000 feet, nearly 2/3 of a mile down, into pitch-black freezing water. All that powered by jellyfish. So yeah, a turtle's mouth looks like something out of a horror movie, but it's not there to scare. It's nature's perfect design for catching, processing, and surviving on one of the slipperiest foods in the ocean. Number 18. The Jacuzzi of Despair. At the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, more than 3,300 foot down, there's a lake inside the ocean that kills almost everything that enters it. Scientists call it a brine pool, but the nickname Jacuzzi of Despair says it all. It was filmed in 2015 by the Nautilus expedition, and it looks unreal. Dark water spilling over its rim like a waterfall in slow motion. Only this one kills. It isn't massive, only about 100 feet across and 12 feet deep, but the chemistry inside makes it terrifying. The brine is 4 to 5 times saltier than normal seawater, almost no oxygen, and packed with hydrogen sulfide and methane. Any fish, crab, or unlucky creature that drifts in doesn't crawl out. Scientists have found their bodies preserved along the edge like pickled trophies. Instruments show the brine runs between 46 and 66 degrees Fahrenheit, warmer than the 40 degrees deep sea around it. This underwater lake exists because of salt tectonics. Ancient salt deposits cracked open, letting dense brine and hydrocarbons leak upward. Too heavy to mix with seawater, the brine sinks into a crater and stays there. Around its rim live mussels and tube worms, feeding on bacteria that use the gases for energy. one of the weirdest food webs on Earth. When a robot sub tried to film it, the pilot had to force the cameras under the surface because the brine was so dense. Number 17. Ocean on fire. On July 2, 2021, the world watched a scene so unreal it looked straight out of a movie. In the Bay of Campeche off Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, the sea itself appeared to be burning. A perfect ring of flames boiled on the surface, glowing orange against the dark water. The fire broke out at Pemex's Ku-Maloob-Zap oil complex around 5:15 a.m. when a 12 inches subsea gas pipeline ruptured. Gas gushed upward, mixed with air, and ignited, most likely during a lightning storm. Fireboats rushed in, sealed the valves, and blasted nitrogen to choke the flames. By 10:30 a.m., it was out. No workers on the platforms nearby were hurt. What people saw wasn't water on fire. It was gas burning above it. The leak created a circular eye of fire shaped by currents, waves, and the firefighting hoses that boxed the flames in. The images spread worldwide, and Mexico's regulators quickly insisted there was no oil spill, though experts demanded outside reviews. Since the area is closed off and gas leaks still release pollutants, the stakes were massive. Ku-Maloob-Zap is Pemex's top-producing field, supplying nearly 40% of its crude, hundreds of thousands of barrels every single day. Less than 2 months later, another fire in the same field killed workers and temporarily slashed output by more than 440,000 barrels per day, proving how fragile offshore systems can be. Number 16. Island of Dolls. South of Mexico City, buried in the canals of Xochimilco, there's an island that will make your skin crawl. It's called La Isla de las Muñecas, the Island of the Dolls. The only way to get here is on a triginera, those colorful pole-pushed boats sliding through the UNESCO-listed canals. When you finally pull up, you're hit with hundreds of dolls hanging from trees and walls. Sun-bleached faces, glassy eyes, missing limbs. Feels like they're all staring straight at you. The story goes that caretaker Don Julian Santana Barrera found a drowned girl in the water and began hanging dolls to keep her spirit at peace. What's real is that he spent decades collecting dolls. What's not proven is the girl. No official record of her death exists. Don Julian himself died in 2001 and was found in the same canals. Today, the island is run by his family and still draws curious visitors. In 2022, Guinness World Records even certified it as the world's largest haunted doll collection. There's a shack where the very first doll still hangs and a white cross marking the spot Don Julian believed the girl had drowned. Number 15. Blue lava. There's a volcano in East Java, Indonesia, that literally glows blue at night, and it's real. Kawah Ijen spits out hot sulfur gas at more than 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. When that gas hits the air, it bursts into flames, sending blue fire, shooting as high as 16 feet in darkness. The mountain looks like it's bleeding neon lava, which is why hikers start climbing at midnight to see it for themselves. But that's just part of the shock. Right next to the flames is a turquoise lake over 650 feet deep. It's so acidic its pH can drop below 0.5, making it the largest natural hyper-acidic brine in the world. Overflow from the crater runs into the Banyupahit River, carrying dissolved metals downstream. The craziest part is people still work here. Miners place ceramic pipes in the vents so sulfur condenses into yellow crust. Then they smash it into pieces and haul loads weighing up to 200 pounds on their shoulders up the rim and down the volcano. The pay is small. The gas burns your lungs. And most miners have nothing more than cloth masks to protect them. Kawah Ijen sits inside a 12-mile-wide caldera. And when the gases spike, the area gets shut down like in 2018 when toxic fumes forced evacuations. Number 14. Eye of the Sahara. In the middle of the Sahara Desert, there's a giant bullseye so big astronauts use it as a landmark from space. It's called the Rikhat structure or the Eye of the Sahara. And near the town of Wadon in Mauritania, its rings stretch 25 to 28 miles across. From orbit, it looks like someone burned a perfect spiral into the desert. For years, people thought it was an impact crater, maybe from an asteroid. But scientists dug deeper and found something else. It's an eroded geologic dome, a place where ancient rock layers bulged upward millions of years ago. Over time, wind and water carved the dome into ring-shaped ridges. At the center are some of Earth's oldest rocks, while younger layers spread outward. Just what you'd expect if erosion had been peeling it back like layers of an onion. What makes it even stranger is the mix of rock types inside. Geologists found rhyolite, gabbro, carbonatite dikes, and a central zone of megabreccia where rocks were shattered and fused together. There are also signs of hydrothermal activity that baked and colored the rocks differently, which is why the rings show off so many colors and textures when seen from above. Today, it's listed as a geological heritage site of global importance. Not just for its science, but because it looks like Earth's natural artwork on a scale so massive, only space reveals its full beauty. Number 13, the Danakil Depression. There's a place on this planet that looks so alien you'd swear it belongs on Mars. It's called the Danakil Depression. Sitting in Ethiopia's Afar region about 410 feet below sea level where two giant tectonic plates are tearing apart. Between 1960 and 1966, the outpost of Dalal here recorded an average yearly temperature of 94 degrees Fahrenheit, the hottest year-round average ever measured for a place where people actually live. The sights are mind-blowing. To the north is Erta Ale, a shield volcano with one of the very few long-lived lava lakes on Earth. Glowing magma swirling right at the surface. Then there's Dalal itself with pools so neon and acidic they look painted. Some even hit pH 0. They're so extreme, scalding, salty, and acidic all at once that scientists haven't found a single sign of life inside them. And yet, humans still work here. Just a little lower at Lake Karam, also called Lake Assail, Afar miners cut salt slabs by hand just like their ancestors did. Camel caravans haul the blocks across endless flats under blistering triple-digit heat, keeping an ancient trade alive in one of the deadliest places on Earth. Number 12, Blood Falls. This is Antarctica bleeding. Blood Falls is a 5-story flow that oozes bright red brine across the frozen face. A sight so strange it looks staged. The color comes from hypersaline water loaded with iron. As soon as it hits air, the iron rusts, turning the outflow into what looks like a wound spilling across the glacier. Back in 2017, radar scans revealed the water's hidden origin to be a briny reservoir buried beneath the ice, likely over 1 million years old. The channel connecting it to the surface runs about 300 feet. The water never freezes because it's insanely salty, lowering its freezing point, and because freezing nearby ice gives off heat that keeps the brine moving. This makes Taylor Glacier the coldest known glacier on Earth with liquid water flowing inside it. But it isn't just chemistry. Scientists sampled the brine and found a whole community of microbes thriving without sunlight and almost no oxygen, living off iron and sulfur reactions instead. Wider mapping suggests that Blood Falls is only one leak in a vast underground salty plumbing system stretching through the dry valleys. The flow isn't constant. Some years the glacier stains heavy red. Other years it slows to a trickle. Few places on Earth feel this otherworldly, and yet it's all real. Number 11, the Crooked Forest. There's a patch of woods in Poland that looks like something an artist carved into the earth. It's called the Crooked Forest, and walking through it feels like stepping into a living illusion. Just outside the village of Zarnowo, about 2.5 miles south of Grafino, stands a grove of Scots pines that bend sharply near the ground before straightening upward. The grove covers just over 1 acre and is protected as a natural monument. Back in 1971, researchers counted around 400 curved pines planted in neat rows in 1934. Today, just over 100 of the originals are still standing. Each one bends northward, sliding sideways by 3 to 9 feet before climbing straight up again, many stretching to about 50 feet tall. The cause has puzzled people for decades, but the best evidence points to human work. Marks 12 to 20 in above the ground suggest young trunks were cut and forced into position. The likely goal was pre-shaped timber for sled runners, boat ribs, or furniture frames. The fact that they line up in even rows makes it hard to believe it was snow or tanks. Everything about it screams craftsmanship. What's wild is nobody knows exactly who bent them or what project the wood was meant for. The mystery just adds to the magic. Today, the Forest Service is working to keep the grove alive, planting new trees from its seeds and carefully bending trunks to copy the old design. Number 10, Black Hole. For decades, black holes felt like something that existed only in science fiction. But then, humans did the unthinkable. They captured actual images. In 2019, the Event Horizon Telescope unveiled the first ever picture showing M87, a black hole 6.5 billion times the mass of our Sun, sitting 55 million light-years away. 3 years later, in 2022, came the first view of Sagittarius A*, the monster at the center of our own Milky Way. That one is about 26,000 light-years from us and weighs roughly 4 million times the Sun. The way scientists pulled it off is wild. They linked radio telescopes across the planet from Hawaii and Arizona to Chile, Mexico, Spain, and even the South Pole. Together, they built a virtual Earth-sized telescope sharp enough to read a newspaper from across the Atlantic Ocean. The big observing run in 2017 used 8 stations working as one, and the result was history. The glowing rings in those images aren't the black holes themselves, but the blazing gas spiraling around their dark cores. Einstein's predictions said this is exactly how they should look, and the images proved him right. In March 2024, scientists pushed further by releasing polarized images of Sagittarius A*, which revealed magnetic fields twisting at the edge of the abyss. Number 9. Three-horned cow. Back in late 2019, the internet went crazy over a video of a cow in Uganda that looked like it came straight out of a myth. This wasn't a cow with 2 giant horns like usual. It had 3. People swore it was fake, maybe some kind of filter, but it wasn't. By January 2020, fact-checkers in Uganda's Ankle Cattle Breeders Society tracked the animal down, and news crews filmed it up close. It was completely real. Ankle Watusi cattle are already legendary. Their horns are massive, built with big blood vessels that dump heat in Uganda's brutal sun. Cows weigh between 900 and 1,200 pounds, while bulls can tip the scale at 1,000 to 1,600 pounds. Those horns can stretch several feet, and seeing one in person feels unreal. So, where does the third horn come from? It's a rare condition called polyceridy. It happens when horn growth splits, often linked to tweaks near the HOXD1 gene. Sheep and goats show it more often, but sometimes cattle get it, too. In other cases, you'll see skers, horn-like growths that aren't fully attached to the skull, but look just as dramatic. And Uganda's cow wasn't alone. Similar three-horned cattle appeared in Brazil in 2018 and in India in 2016, but none blew up online the way this one did. Number 8. The Red Beach. There's a stretch of coastline in China that looks like someone poured red paint across the earth. Locals call it the Red Beach, but it isn't sand at all. It's a salt marsh on the Liao River Delta covered by a plant called Sueda salsa. Each fall, this simple plant turns fiery red and paints the wetlands in a color so intense it looks unreal. The site sitting in Panjin at the northeast corner of Bohai Bay is protected inside the Liaohe River Estuary National Nature Reserve. The reserve spans about 309 square miles and tourists stay on raised walkways, including a viewing corridor that stretches nearly 11 miles. In spring, the plants are green. As cooler weather sets in and the salty soil stresses them, they flood with red betalain and pigments. By late fall, the color deepens into purple. That glow isn't just for show. It also makes this wetland a lifeline for migrating birds. Red-crowned cranes and other rare species rely on it as a key stop along the East Asian Australasian flyway. But the marsh faces pressure. A wetland recovery program began in 2015. Yet a study in 2022 showed Sueda coverage shrinking from about 8 square kilometers to just over 3 between 2016 and 2019. Even so, visitors keep coming. During China's National Day holiday in October 2024, over 200,000 people crowded in to see it. The real magic lasts only a few weeks, mid-September to mid-October. That's when the meeting line of red marsh and blue water makes the whole place look like a living painting. Number 7. Elephant's Foot in Chernobyl. When Chernobyl's Reactor 4 exploded on April 26, 1986, it created one of the most terrifying objects on Earth. Inside the wreckage, molten fuel mixed with sand and building material, forming a radioactive lava called corium. The biggest lump became infamous as the elephant's foot. It was discovered 8 months later in a corridor under the destroyed reactor. Radiation levels near it were brutal. About 8,000 to 10,000 roentgens per hour, which equals 80 to 100 grays per hour. That much could kill a person in minutes. Luckily, radiation has dropped over time as the most dangerous isotopes decayed. Scientists studied what it's made of and found it's mostly glassy silicon dioxide with uranium and zirconium oxides. Some samples have more uranium crystals than others, so they split them into brown and black types. Over the years, the outer crust cracked and some parts even crumbled into dust. That creepy photo you've seen of it, a safety engineer named Artur Korniev took it in 1996. He used a long exposure and a flashlight in a dark hallway. It looked supernatural, but it was just a fast, risky shot. Number 6. Fish with human face. There's a fish in Asia that looks so human it'll mess with your head. It's called the Asian sheepshead wrasse or kabudai to divers in Japan. Face it straight on and you'll swear it's glaring back at you. Big swollen forehead, jutting jaw, and eyes that seem alive with expression. A full-grown male can stretch about 3 feet 3 inches in and weigh around 32 pounds. They hang out on rocky reefs off Japan, Korea, and China, usually 30 to 150 foot down in the water. Here's the kicker. They can switch sex. Most are born female but later flip into males. When the change happens, the head swells, the jaw thickens, and suddenly it's rocking that bizarre human face. The BBC even caught one transforming near Sado Island. One kabudai in Japan became a legend. 4 years, diver Hiroyuki Arakawa rang a bell at an underwater Shinto gate in Tateyama Bay. A wrasse he nicknamed Yuriko began showing up every time, eventually letting him touch her. Their odd friendship went global. Stats-wise, the largest wrasse on record hit 39 in long and weighed 32 pounds. Scientists list the species as data deficient. Since there isn't enough info to know if it's at risk, they eat crabs, shellfish, and other bottom feeders. And yes, some end up on plates in Japan. Number 5. Snake Island. Off the coast of Sao Paulo, about 21 miles from land, there's an island so dangerous it's been completely closed off. Locals call it Snake Island. It's barely 106 acres across with cliffs rising almost 700 feet, and yet no one lives there. The Brazilian Navy sealed it in 1985 as an ecological reserve, and the only humans who set foot there now are researchers with hard-to-get permits. Why the lockdown? This tiny place is the only wild home of the golden lancehead viper, one of the rarest and deadliest snakes on Earth. Thousands of years ago, when rising seas cut the island off from the mainland, the snakes were trapped. With rodents gone, they evolved to hunt birds instead. Studies show they strike migratory songbirds as they stop to rest, even climbing shrubs to ambush them, while juveniles survive on centipedes and lizards. Forget the stories claiming a snake every square meter. Modern surveys in 2021 put the population at only about 2,400 to 2,900, clustered in forest patches. Even so, the species is critically endangered, constantly threatened by poaching and shrinking habitat. The island still holds traces of human presence, like a lighthouse built in 1909, later automated and abandoned. Number 4. Whales sleeping. Yes, whales sleep, and when sperm whales do it, the ocean suddenly looks like a dream. They don't lie down or float sideways. Instead, they hang completely upright, heads up and tails down, drifting like giant elevators stuck between floors. They do it in groups near the surface, staying motionless for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. Scientists first documented it in 2008, and a set of photos in 2017 showed just how strange and dreamlike it looks. On average, they spend only about 7% of the day sleeping. The big question is how they rest without drowning. Unlike us, whales breathe on purpose. They never stop paying attention. Many toothed whales can put half their brain to sleep at once, so one side rests while the other stays alert. For sperm whales, researchers have even recorded vertical rests lasting up to 32 minutes, usually 30 to 65 foot down. Some studies suggest they may sometimes shut down their whole brain for short bursts, but always surface on a rhythm to breathe. That makes catching this sight incredibly rare since sperm whales spend most of their lives diving thousands of feet into the deep hunting squid. It's peaceful, haunting, and one of the strangest things ever recorded in the wild. Number 3. Waters meeting. There's a spot near Vancouver where the ocean and a river slam into each other so sharply it looks unreal. From planes and even from space, you can see the Fraser River smashing into the Strait of Georgia. One side is pale and cloudy. The other is dark blue. It looks like cream being poured into coffee, only on a massive scale. The Fraser River carries about 20 million tons of silt every year, spreading it across the surface in a sheet of muddy water that stretches for miles. The split happens because the river and the sea are completely different. The river is fresher, cooler, and full of sediment. The strait is saltier, heavier, and clearer. Where they meet, you get a clean edge called a front. They do blend, but not instantly. Wind, tides, and waves take hours or days to fully mix them, which is why the color line looks razor-sharp when the river is running strong. Scientists from UBC and government agencies have tracked how gravity currents and tides push and pull that plume in every direction. Every spring, the river floods out into the sea, delivering nutrients that trigger huge plankton blooms. NASA satellites catch the boundary curling, bending, and breaking apart, proving it's always moving, even when it looks still. The view is so dramatic that pilots and astronauts keep taking pictures of it. Number 2. Aldabra tortoises. There's a spot in the Indian Ocean that feels like stepping back in time. Aldabra Atoll in Seychelles is a massive ring of coral about 60 square miles across, and it's crawling with giants. Over 100,000 giant tortoises march across this wild landscape, making it the biggest gathering of their kind anywhere on Earth. It's so important that UNESCO protects it as a World Heritage Site and access is locked down. Tourists can only land on a small piece of Picard Island and only with staff escorting them. These gentle giants are Aldabra tortoises known to science as Aldabracles gigantea. Males can weigh up to 550 pounds and stretch nearly 4 feet long. Females are smaller but still massive. They wander slowly, cutting paths through brush, chomping grass, and spreading seeds everywhere. Over centuries, their constant grazing has reshaped the island itself. Scientists with the Seychelles Islands Foundation have tracked this giant herd for decades, and it's the only place on Earth with such numbers left. They are the last survivors of the giant tortoise species that once roamed other Indian Ocean islands, but were wiped out by hunters long ago. Aldabra's herd almost met the same fate, but strict protection saved them. Now, the main threat is development. In 2024, conservation groups warned that a luxury project on nearby Assumption Island could bring invasive species that might ruin Aldabra's balance. To grasp their sheer longevity, look at Jonathan, an Aldabra tortoise living on St. Helena. Guinness World Records calls him the oldest living land animal, an incredible 192 years old in late 2024. Number 1. Black dragonfish. Deep in the ocean lives a creature that looks like it came straight out of a nightmare. The black dragonfish is an ambush predator that seems designed by a movie studio. Females grow up to about 2 feet long, sporting fangs and a glowing chin lure. They dangle like bait. Males are the total opposite. Barely 3 in long, no teeth, no lure, no stomach. They can't even eat. Their only job is to survive long enough to mate then die. You'll find these monsters in the midnight zone, thousands of feet below the surface. Dragonfish have been recorded as deep as 14,800 feet, but most black dragons prowl a few thousand feet down and rise toward the surface at night. Their teeth are terrifyingly smart. In 2019, scientists discovered their fangs are nearly invisible because of a nanoscale structure in the enamel and dentin. That means light doesn't bounce off them, so prey never sees the trap until it's too late. Their skin is just as sneaky. In 2020, researchers found black dragonfish are part of a group with ultra-black skin that soaks up more than 99.12% of incoming light. It makes them vanish in the dark, even when other animals flash nearby. On top of that, they flash bioluminescent lures and spots to trick prey. Some of their relatives even shine deep red light, invisible to most fish, but not to themselves. That's like carrying a private flashlight in total darkness. And to top it off, dragonfish hatch with eyes on stalks that get pulled into their skull as they grow, turning them into one of the most alien-looking predators on Earth. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.